6th graders, and welcome to lesson 89 on estimating square roots. So this lesson is a little bit abstract, but we're going to jump in and hopefully it'll make a lot of sense to you. Remember that finding the square root, and this is the square root sign, so finding the square root of a number is the opposite of squaring a number. So an example would be 4 squared means 4 times 4, not 4 times 2. It means 4 times 4 equals 16. So then we know that the square root of 16 is 4. They're opposites of each other. If I square a number and then I find the square root of that number, I'll go back to my original number. We can estimate and then guess and check to find square roots. So the first example, say to simplify. And here we have the square root of 400. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick numbers that I know easily to see if I can find something close to that. And then I'll pick another number and I'll guess and check to see if I'm right. So first let's go with, this is a pretty big number, 400. So let's go with 10 times 10. 10 squared is 100. So we know that the number is going to be bigger than 10. What about if we were to double that, okay, and we did 20 squared? So 20 times 20, and I'm going to bring down my 0, and then I've got 0, 400. Perfect. So I guessed, in that case, I guessed it correctly on the second try. I could think 2 times 2 is 4, and so I'm going to get those 2 zeros. So the square root of 400 is going to be 20. All right, if I had tried 15 and done 15 times 15 and it was still too small, then I might have jumped up to 20. If 20 was too big, then I would have tried a number between 15 and 20 until I find a number that works. Let's look at example B. What is the square root of 625? Well, we already figured out that the square root, or that 20 squared, is 400. So if we were to double, let's go up by another 10, and if we did 30 squared, 3 times 3 is going to be 9, so we've got 900. So we know that 625 is in between 400 and 900, so let's start with right in the middle, and then if we have to try another one, we'll know which way to go. So 25 squared is going to be 25 times 25. 5 times 5 is 25. 2 times 5 is 10, 11, 12. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1. 5, 2, 6. Well, look at that. I got a perfect match. So my answer is 25. The square root of 625 is 25. When it is not a perfect square, we can estimate by finding which 2 perfect squares it falls between. Okay, this concept, like I said, is kind of abstract. Perfect squares are everything we've dealt with before, where we get a whole number. Like 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 is a perfect square. In fact, we're going to take a second before we do this, and we're going to write out our perfect squares. Okay, so if I did 2 times 2, I would get 4. If I did 3 times 3, I would get 9. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. 9 times 9 is 81, and 10 times 10 is 100. So here are the most common perfect squares, and these are the numbers that when we find the square root of them, we get. We're going to use this information to help us estimate here. So this says, find which 2 perfect squares the number falls between. So we're going to look at the square root of 20. And I'm going to come down here to my perfect squares, and I'm going to find which 2 numbers, one that comes before it and one that comes right after it, where would this 20 fall in this top line? Between 16 and 25. So the square root of 20, if I could draw it this way, the square root of 20 would be between the square root of 16 and the square root of 25. Now on a number line, what would this number be? What is the square root of 25? What is the square root of 16? So the square root of 20 comes somewhere between the numbers 4 and 5. And without using a calculator or just doing a lot of guessing and checking, it would be hard to figure out exactly where it was. But we can do something to give us a kind of a good idea. Look at the numbers 16. How much of a difference is there between 16 and 20? 4, right? How much of a difference is there between 20 and 25? 5. So that means that the square root of 20 is a little bit closer to the square root of 16 than it is to the square root of 25. So it's going to be, if this was half, it'll be a little bit closer to 4. Where would you say this is on a number line? What number would you say that if you were going to give it a decimal? Okay, I would say like 4.4. And that's just an estimate. It may not be exact. How could I find it exact? Well, if I use my calculator, I would put in the number first, 20, and then I'm going to hit this shift key right here, and I'm going to hit the square root key. So the answer was 4.47. So we were pretty close. Okay, D. So for this one, I want you to try this on your own. I'll walk you through the steps really quick. Look at 38, find it down here. Pick the two numbers that it comes between, write them there, draw a number line, figure out what whole numbers will go below, like the square root of 25 was 5, and the square root of 16 is 4. And then estimate where you think that 38 would be as a decimal. Go ahead and get to work.